Hi everyone, Heather here with astrologywithheather.com, and I am back with another weekly forecast. This one is from Monday, July 1st, all the way through to Sunday, July 7th of 2019. And so this week is a big week in the astrology. We are officially in eclipse season. We've already been feeling the energy as it has sort of started to build and take hold, because eclipses, as many of you already are aware, do not just last during the time of the eclipse. You'll feel the energy a couple months before and a couple months after, especially during a really strong eclipse like the one we're about to have, which is a total solar eclipse in the sign of Cancer. And so for some of you, some of the eclipse events have already begun to play out. You've been feeling that very karmic, synchronistic, strange energy. You've been pulled in a new direction, or you're sensing that something is coming that's about to pull you in a new direction in your life. And so, for some people, the eclipse energy has already begun to manifest. For others, you might not feel it as strongly in your chart, or it might take a little bit more time, especially in the fall. We're going to be seeing a lot of the full manifestation of the energy that's initiated during this eclipse season, especially during this first eclipse, which again is a powerful total solar eclipse. So it's an eclipse of the sun. And so, this week is going to be a powerful week. That's really going to be the big energy for this week. We're feeling this energy of change, transition, new beginnings that are very karmic and fated and very intense for some people. I know that I posted in my astrology story page on Facebook a couple of weeks ago asking people for stories about their eclipse experiences, because I was curious. For me personally, I've had a lot of really positive developments that have occurred during the eclipses, but they weren't without a lot of stress and turbulence and a little bit of chaos along the way. It's sort of like these eclipse points take you in a whole new direction. They throw you in a whole new path in life, and you think it's just going to be one thing, but really the events that transpire around the eclipses change many different aspects of your life. And you can see where the change is going to occur more closely, well, when we go into the forecast for all 12 signs, of course. But if you have a strong alignment with one of your personal planets, especially at 10 degrees in the sign of Cancer, or 10 degrees in any of the cardinal signs, so that would be Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, you're going to be feeling this the most, and you might find yourself on the receiving end of some unexpected, really powerful new beginnings and change this month. And especially coming into this week, you might feel it brewing. Pay attention to the signs and synchronicities and the things that seem like in an odd way extra important. So it might not make sense in a logical fashion, especially in the sign of Cancer. It's going to be more paying attention to where your emotions are taking you, what feels good, looking to your intuition for guidance, as opposed to trying to rationalize what is happening in your life and where you're going to be headed into. And so anything that does come up to you intuitively, any visions, impressions, downloads, signs and synchronicities that you're experiencing around this time, I highly recommend writing it down. Your dreams too. One of the things that I have always noticed, and again, this is just my personal experience, and I'll get into some of the other experiences in just a second, but one of the things that I've always noticed around eclipse season, ever since I started, writing down my dreams and keeping a dream log, is that a lot of the events that a lot of the dreams I have during one eclipse season will manifest in physical reality in the following eclipse season, so about 6 months later. And that's been a pattern that I've noticed, and I know other people have had similar experiences. And if it's not dreams, it's like you get this really intense imagery, or this download, or this flash of insight, or this really synchronistic meeting occurs, and maybe it doesn't turn into anything right away, even though it feels hugely significant in the moment. But then when you reflect on it later on, or later on down the line, it comes back into your reality, this person, this situation, this event that felt really important and strange, but nothing really happened. And when you go back and reflect on it, you realize that it was really initiated during the eclipse season. And so these are the types of things to pay attention to. And paying attention to these things as they're unfolding during this eclipse season can really help you to understand how the eclipses impact you personally, because the eclipses impact everybody a little bit differently. If you are somebody who is born under an eclipse or near an eclipse, which is something I'm going to be posting a video about later next week, hopefully, if I can, get it together to do that. It's busy time during eclipse season. But if you're born during an eclipse, the eclipses tend to impact you more strongly, especially when they align with your natal planets. And you tend to have a greater ability to navigate the eclipse energy more effectively because it's your natal energy. It's what you're used to. And so being in these very fated karmic transitionary points where you're being led in a new direction, that almost feels more comfortable than just day-to-day mundane reality and just doing the same thing over and over and having all that stability. It's kind of like, okay, universe, where am I being taken next, right? And so that's kind of the energy of the eclipse. We're looking this week into where are we being taken next? How are we going to alter our comfort zones, right? Because this is in the sign of Cancer, which has to do with our emotional comfort zones. How are we altering our comfort zones so that way we can, change and shift and move in a new direction? This is a really great energy for renewing our connection to our family and to the people that we care about most. This is a really great time to renew our commitment to self-care and to taking stock of our own emotional well-being. Tapping into intuition, of course, and tapping into creativity, of course, will be really great things that we can do to utilize the energy of the eclipse. But for the most part, eclipses are not about harnessing and doing things intentionally. If you do that, that's fine. But the end results are usually not going to be exactly what you want them to be. So you have to really be able to roll with the punches and to make adjustments along the way and to be okay with that, to be okay with not being able to really control what's happening and the results of your actions. So if there's something that you're doing and you want it to go in a very specific direction, the eclipse energy is not the best time to do it. However, if you're okay with that idea of giving it up to God, giving it up to fate, allowing things to transpire and unfold, and being okay with the fact that maybe this thing that you initiated is not the right thing to initiate, and you're going to, something new is going to begin that maybe you're not even aware of yet, then that's okay. It depends on how flexible you are with your plans and with, just in general, because some people do better with this energy than others. The other thing, too, that we need to take into account is that Mercury is stationing to go retrograde. And so this is happening on Sunday, on the 7th. And so we're in this huge transitionary period. We have Mars moving into the sign of Leo, which is going to get us fired up about our passions, and it'll help us to act more authentically and more from the heart. There can be this energy of me doing it my way, I'm the leader, like that type of thing with Mars in the sign of Leo. But for the most part, it does really well in the sign of Leo. It's a fire sign. Mars does well in the fire signs. And so that's good news. Venus will be moving into Cancer, which is also good news. It softens some of that really intense Cancerian energy that's going on right now. Venus is the lesser benefic, right? Venus brings pleasure and joy and love and relationship and interconnectedness. And in the sign of Cancer, it's a time where we can connect with people in a way that's very nurturing and that feels good on an emotional level, where we can support other people on an emotional level and do things to show that we care. We can tap into our intuition when it comes to the way that we interact with others. And so our interactions become softer and more nurturing and more caring, and people take on more of that vibe. So that's actually a really nice energy that's going to be kind of helping with the intensity of the eclipse. And I'm going to show you what's going on here with the eclipse too. So this is the eclipse chart, and you can see that Venus, it's like a 12-degree orb conjunction with the moon and the sun, because it's not fully into the sign of Cancer yet. That'll happen on Wednesday, the day after the eclipse. But you can see here that this eclipse is not the most intense of the eclipses. The one that is coming up actually on the 16th of July will be a lot more intense. And that intensity will also be highlighted at the end of the month when we have Mercury stationing to go direct on the eclipse points. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. So Mercury is stationing to go retrograde just after this eclipse takes hold. And so it'll be retrograding all the way from July 7th until July 31st. And it'll be moving backward from 4 degrees of Leo all the way to 23 degrees in the sign of Cancer. And that will, be on the the 31st when it stations to go direct. And so we have this 3-week period where not only are we being pulled into these really chaotic circumstances and moving in these new directions, and getting ready for something that's new, but there's this period also of pulling back, of reorienting ourselves, of really taking stock of what we're doing and making sure that our plans are correct, reorganizing our thoughts, reorganizing our plans, being more introspective. And that's a lot of what this energy is too, because it's in the sign of Cancer, right? It's an introspective energy. And when Mercury stations to go retrograde, it's 3 times stronger, it's 3 times closer to the earth. The energy is elevated of mercurial things like communication and short distance travel and our plans and, technology that involves communication and all of these things, they're strengthened and highlighted. And that's why these Mercury retrogrades tend to highlight these types of issues, because they're stronger and it's more prevalent, and people tend to be rushing through things or not thinking very clearly. And when Mercury's in retrograde, you have to take 3 times longer to think things through before you take action. It's a more introspective time. Retrogrades in general are more introspective than the direct motion of the planets, which is more external. And so that is something to take into account. So this week in general is a really introspective time. If you are being called to move in a new direction, if there's something that you need to take action on, and it feels like it's like meant to be, then obviously, follow that. Follow your intuition. Your intuition is going to guide you in the right direction. Trying to rationalize things, that's not going to work so well this week and in general. So allowing your heart to guide you, allowing your emotions to lead you in the right direction, the way you feel about things, that's the way to go. And especially with Mercury in retrograde, our minds are going to be more introspective. We're going to have to really think things through before we take action on them. And I actually did an article for all of you. It's like a little survival guide to the Mercury retrograde. And if you are subscribed to my channel, you would have seen that pop up on your feed or on the community page on my channel, the link for that. But I'm going to post it down below as well, because it just gives tips and tricks for dealing with the retrograde energy more effectively. So that way you're not on the receiving end of all of those Mercury retrograde problems that people talk about. It doesn't have to be that crazy or that detrimental. It will be a little bit more difficult for some, especially those who have their sun, moon, or rising at the end degrees of the fixed signs, at the beginning degrees of the fixed signs, which are Leo, Aquarius, Scorpio, and Taurus. And for those who have their sun, moon, rising at the end degrees of the cardinal signs, which are Cancer, Capricorn, Aries, and Libra. And so, especially for those people, because you're going to be having another eclipse that's going to hit you at the same point. So, but we'll get into that later in the month when we start to talk about that. That's just a little foreshadowing, I guess, for what's to come, because really we're here to talk about this week and, this powerful energy. But yeah, we're going to be doing a lot of revision, really taking stock with Mercury retrograding in the sign of Leo of what our plans are, what it is that we're putting out there communication-wise, with our thoughts, with our ideas, with our plans, and whether or not that's connected with our hearts and our authenticity and what we truly feel passionate about. The same thing goes when Mercury will retrograde back into the sign of Cancer, which we'll get into more in depth when that actually happens in these weekly forecasts. But that's going to be more taking stock of your emotional comfort zones, your plans related to family and home and connection and community and all these things. And so that's going to be a little bit of a different energy. But we're making sure that we're revising our plans, right? All those rewords, but revising our plans so that way they're more in alignment with what we authentically want, right? And who we authentically are out in the world. So we're not acting outside of our authenticity. Okay, and so we talked a lot about the general energy here. Let's get into the forecast for all 12 signs, shall we? And before we do that, I do have a couple of quick announcements. First, I just wanted to let you guys all know that I am going to discontinue taking orders for longer, more in-depth readings for a few weeks because I want to get caught up and, I want to shorten my wait time, and I have some projects that I need to really work on and, revise and revisit during the Mercury retrograde and after the fact. And so the last chance to get a longer in-depth reading for the summer, because I'm already booked up through the end of the summer, is going to be on July 2nd. And then I'm going to close down booking readings for longer astrology readings. But if you want to get a single question astrology reading or an urgent single question astrology reading with a quicker turnaround so you can get your answers right away, I'm still going to leave those open throughout the entire time. These shorter, more to the point, very detailed answers to a specific question or insight into a specific topic, just so that way you guys, if you really need some advice or some guidance or just insight from the astrology in general, then you can still, go and do that. So that's the link to book a reading is going to be down in the description below if that's something that you want to do. If you want to have a longer 30, 60, or 90-minute reading for the summer, you can definitely jump in and do that before I close that out. And then this is the last weekend to pre-order your solar return astrology forecast for Leo if you are a Leo sun sign. And so I'm going to have those available at the start of next week. And so you can pre-order for $9.99 right now. They'll go up to $12.99 once they're fully available and released. And then finally, I am redoing the way that I'm already redoing this. I'll probably redo it again while Mercury's in retrograde, but I'm changing the way that I'm doing social media and providing information through those outlets. And so I am now doing astro highlights Monday morning. For every week, I give a little rundown of which signs are going to be affected in a positive or in a challenging way, or maybe in a medium sort of way. And then I'm giving just brief rundowns of all of the main events for the week ahead. That'll be available through my website, through my blog. It'll be available on my Facebook page, and the link for that is down in the description below. And it'll also be available via a newsletter, so you can subscribe to have these weekly astro insights that are very brief, quick, and to the point, delivered right into your inbox. And so that's something new that I'm starting. So the link to sign up for the email is down in the description below. I'll post the actual blog post on my community page for those who are subscribed, and so that way you won't miss anything important if that's something that you're interested in keeping up on. I have a lot of friends who are either just working a lot, or they're like, especially my friends who are mothers, they say that they don't have time to listen to these long videos and find their signs, and they want like a written, just quick and to the point type of thing. And so I thought that this would be a nice way to do that, and to cut down on the amount of posting and social media time I'm spending, because that has gotten out of hand. So anyway, that was a very lengthy announcement. I apologize for that. But for those who are interested in what I'm doing and getting more detailed information about the astrology, I feel like it's important to make note of, the free content that I'm providing, and also the little bonus extras that you can, purchase through my website. Okay, so let's get into the forecast for all 12 signs. And so for this forecast, because we have some really strong energy with the eclipses and with Mercury going into retrograde, I'm going to focus on those two things because those are the most important energies that are happening for the week ahead. All right. And so for Aries and for Aries rising, there we go. So for Aries and for Aries rising, this eclipse is happening in your fourth house, which is the house of home, family, property, your place of living. And so this could bring up potentially some sort of fated karmic new beginning related to your home, related to where you live, or the people that you surround yourself with in your home environment. That could include your immediate family, that could include roommates, that could include pets. Anything that goes on within the home is subject for these fated karmic new beginnings and transitions that can really be stimulated this week. And so this is an area to pay particular attention to. It doesn't mean that everything's going to unfold all at once, but paying attention to the signs, synchronicities, the messages that you receive will help you to know what direction you're heading into, and will help you to navigate this energy much more effectively as it does unfold. And for those of you who have your your sun, moon, or rising sign, especially in the sign of Aries, around that 10th degree, this might be impacting you a little bit more forcefully. You might feel it in terms of like intensity that affects you very personally. It might affect your body. You might feel a little more amped up or a little bit more depleted this week. You might have issues with getting things going, or you might feel very strong in terms of like your willpower and this need to take initiative. This can bring karmic fated changes and directions in your path, like overall in life, and this can bring karmic and fated changes to your relationships in particular for those who have sun, moon, rising around that 10th degree, especially rising sign. And so I would say anywhere from 5 to 15 degrees would be feeling this the most, just because this is such a strong total eclipse of the sun that's occurring. In terms of the Mercury retrograde, Mercury is going to be stationing to go retrograde in your 5th house, which is the house of play, love, children, hobbies, interests, the things that you do because you love to do them. And so this is going to bring ample opportunity for you to reflect on all of those themes. So are you experiencing joy in your life? Are you experiencing passion and romance? Are you experiencing play? How is your relationship with your children, if you have any? These are all things to sit with and reflect on and meditate on, especially this weekend, but really throughout the Mercury retrograde period, all the way through until the 31st. This is going to stimulate that type of questioning and that type of energy. Where mishaps might happen, potentially, you could have issues or miscommunications around children or around romance. Maybe, a date that you're supposed to go on doesn't show up at the right time or something like that. Like, these are things that could happen, but for the most part, this is going to be in trine with your sign, which is Aries. And so, especially if you have your Aries, sun sign within the first few degrees of Aries, I would say anywhere from 0 to 10 degrees, this Mercury retrograde should be affecting you positively. You'll have a lot of time to really reflect on the way that you act out in the world and whether or not that's in alignment with your passions and the things that you truly love. Are you passionate about your direction? Are you passionate about what it is that you're doing in life? Are you showing up in a way that that is authentic and heartfelt? Are you creating from that space? Those are other additional questions that you might ask yourself and reflect on during this time. All right, and then for Taurus and for Taurus rising. So for Taurus rising, this energy is happening in your 3rd house of communication with the total eclipse in the sign of Cancer. And so this could bring new beginnings or fated karmic circumstances, change, transition that occurs involving, first off, your mindset about something, your beliefs, your day-to-day thought processes might change. You might have a very unexpected, fated, karmic, unusual communication that comes in that changes your path in some way. There could be new developments involving education. There could be new developments involving siblings and extended family members. There could be new developments involving your community, your neighbors, your neighborhood. That could be very unusual, or that could cause you to have to change something. This is also to do with short distance travel. You might have opportunities that come up to sort of go on a short trip or to go to a location that you haven't experienced before, and some sort of synchronistic occurrence could come up for you there. And so this is going to be a new beginning. The main reset here is having to do with your day-to-day communications and your mindset on a day-to-day basis, which is subject for change in some very big ways. And then we have the energy of Mercury stationing to go retrograde in the sign of Leo. And so this is happening on Sunday, and this will be happening at 4 degrees in the sign of Leo. And so for those who have their sun, moon, rising, anywhere really between 0 to 10 degrees in the sign of Taurus, Mercury will be, actually, I'm going to give it a shorter orb than that. I'm going to say 2 to 6 degrees, because Mercury is a fast moving planet. And those are the ones that are going to be feeling it the most. So I'm going to change that. So 2 to 6 degrees in the sign of Taurus. You're going to have Mercury stationing to go retrograde in square with your natal sun, moon, or rising. And so this could be an extra retrograde time for you guys who have a lot of Taurus energy at those beginning degrees. And so this is the time where you should not initiate action, where you can definitely expect some miscommunications, some delays, some hiccups. And so you want to really take your time with things. You want to allow for extra time with travel. You want to allow for extra time in general to get things done, so you can double and triple check your work or your communications. And this could bring up a lot of review around your home, your property, your place of living, or your relationship with your family. You might have to revisit old communications with family members in order to resolve something. You might have to take a look back at your agreements with maybe contracts involving your home or your property, and make alterations to those agreements. You might have to reflect on your home environment and whether or not it allows you to experience joy and passion. You can do that Marie Kondo thing and reorganize and see if things spark joy. That would actually be a really good thing to do for you in particular, with Mercury retrograding in Leo, the place of passion and joy and fun and all of that. In your fourth house of the home. So that's something that you can think about. So this is a great time for reorganizing and getting your ducks in a row when it comes to your home. So getting your house in order. All right. Oops. I gotta do Gemini before Cancer. So for Gemini and Gemini rising, this new moon solar eclipse is happening in your second house, which is the house of finance. This can bring a major reset, major new beginnings, very fated karmic circumstances, unusual transitions that can occur involving your resources, your money, the way that you create resources through your own hard work, or the way that you deal with your resources. You might have an unexpected expense or purchase that comes up this week that causes you to have to sort of take a look at or change the way that you deal with your money. This could even bring a fated new opportunity for you on a financial level that you might want to follow through with. And so, this is a time where there's going to be a reset going on, and you're going to be thrown into a new direction related to finances in general, related to the way that you deal with your resources. And so it's like a cosmic reset in that area. And again, you can have fated karmic occurrences involving money, or debt or bills or something along those lines, or a major purchase that could come up for you this week, but really into the next few months. And so, pay attention to what's going on, or any insights that you get around resources, around finance this week too, because that's going to give you clues as to, what might be up for change. And then you have this Mercury, which is the ruler of your sign. So this is when Mercury does something in the skies. For Gemini, it's more important to pay attention to, because it is your rising sign. It's the ruler of your chart, or it's your, the ruler of your sun or your moon. And so mercurial things tend to take on a greater importance. And for you, this is happening in your third house, which is the house of communication. This is a really great time, especially if you have your Gemini rising sign anywhere from 2 to 6 degrees in the sign of Gemini, to really reflect on or revisit old contracts or old communications in relationship with other people that need to be sort of drudged up and revisited in one way or another, or maybe renegotiated in one way or another. And so this stationary position is providing an opportunity for you to sit back, to gain insight. It's a good time for introspection related to communication and relationships in general. This retrograde for Gemini rising signs is going to be a good time to rethink plans and ideas. This is going to be an extra retrograde, Mercury retrograde, because it is in your third house of communication, which is a mercurial energy already. It's Mercury, which is the ruler of your sign. And so you might find yourself on the receiving end of more delays with travel, more technological hiccups, especially involving communication. So things on social media or text messages, emails, phone calls, all of that. So just make sure you're allowing for extra time, because they're all going to be little things, but these little things tend to add up and become pretty irritating. But this is a good energy for sort of kicking back and revisiting energy and communication and relationship with people. So instead of the day-to-day busyness, focusing more on how you interrelate with others and your close connections with other people, and maybe going back and having deeper conversations around certain topics that maybe you need to revisit. That's going to be the best way to utilize this energy for Gemini. All right, and then for Cancer and Cancer rising. So this is a big eclipse for you guys. this entire eclipse season is going to be really big for Cancer, Sun, Moon, Rising, or even if you have any of your personal planets. So Mercury, Venus, Mars in particular, in the sign of Cancer around that 10th degree. Also, if you have any of these planets or points in the sign of Cancer around 17 degrees, this is also going to be very important. I have noticed that when an eclipse comes, the degree of the eclipse is highly active, but the degree of the north and south nodes are also highly active, even if they're not exact with the eclipse. And so paying close, so this is going to be a lot of Cancer here. So anywhere from 0 to 15 degrees in the sign of Cancer will really be feeling this total full moon, or sorry, new moon solar eclipse very strongly, but also anywhere from like 15 to 19 degrees in Cancer, you probably are going to be feeling this very strongly as well, especially at that 17th degree, because the nodes will be in a conjunction with your sun, moon, or rising sign. And so this is a really big opportunity for Cancers to be completely pulled into a new direction. It's like a cosmic reset in all areas of life. This could be a reset for your persona, your personality, your direction, your aim, your goals in life. This could be a reset involving your body, your health, your image, your self-image, the way that you project your energy outwardly, and whether or not that's in alignment with your emotional comfort zones, or if you need to expand your emotional comfort zones in order to allow for this change to occur, because that's going to be a big theme for Cancers. This can also bring fated karmic new beginnings related to your work, your career, your public status, your relationship with people in positions of power and authority. This can make changes occur and pull you in a new direction where you're focusing less on your relationships and the needs of other people and focusing more on you and what you want, what you need, what you desire, having to let go of old karmic circumstances in relationships so that way you can move forward in a new direction, or reconfigure or transform the area of relationships so that way you can allow space for this forward momentum and this reset to occur when it comes to, your personal motivations and your personal path in life. And this is going to be a time where your path will completely change. Your life can be completely turned upside down. You can move into a completely new direction, and the life that you once had is going to be completely different or look completely different once you're on the other side of this after the fall. This can also bring, really fated transitions and karmic occurrences related to home, family, property, or place of living. And so you might find yourself, especially if you have that energy really strong at 10 degrees for your rising sign, you might find yourself having changes in all four of those really important areas of life. And they might be occurring all at once. And so that's something very important to pay attention to. And at the 17th degree in the sign of Cancer, it's going to be a similar energy, very strong too, just not quite as strong. And so also I would like to point out for those of you who have your birthday this week, especially at the start of this week, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, even into Thursday, you're going to have your solar return on an eclipse. And so this is going to be a very, very karmic, very fated new beginning for you that's going to last all year. It really enhances that eclipse energy to the point where it's going to really overpower all the major themes for this year. It's going to be a complete change, a complete 180 from the way that you lived your life before. And so you can learn more about that by ordering my solar return forecast for Cancer. The link is down in the description below. And it's a general forecast that goes in depth into specific indicators for each birthday, and this eclipse is one of those indicators. And then in terms of the retrograde Mercury, that's Mercury stationing to go retrograde in your second house of finance. And so you might find this week that you might have some miscommunications or mishaps around money, around resources. Communication around resources could be delayed or confused in some sort of way. And this could be a really great time for you over the next 3 weeks to rebalance your budget and to rethink your relationship with money. And that could mean anything from rethinking the way that you create resources through your work, rethinking the way that you budget your money, rethinking the way that you distribute your money for paying bills, rethinking the way that you make major purchases or make decisions about major purchases. All of these things are up for review. And so that's Cancer and Cancer rising. And then for Leo and for Leo rising. So this eclipse is happening in your 12th house, which is the hidden house. It's the house of spirituality. It's the house of retreat, rest, reprieve. And so this could be a new beginning involving those themes, where maybe you need to take some time out, especially at the start of this week, to really turn inward. A lot of the changes that are going to be happening for you throughout this eclipse season are going to be more, or especially throughout this first eclipse, and as a result of the energy of this first eclipse, are going to be more internal. They're going to be more subjective. They're going to be more unconscious. And so, tapping into those realms through meditation, through spirituality, through taking some sort of retreat or going on some sort of retreat or spending time away from the world, that's going to be a really good way to pick up on these cues as to what needs to change. This could bring up past life karma into the forefront of this lifetime for you to deal with in very real and very very karmic, synchronous, strange ways. This could also bring it could make it necessary to deal with 12th house institutions. So those are institutions that are hidden away from the world. Those include places like hospitals, prisons, monasteries, ashrams, temples, spiritual retreat centers, mental health facilities, rehabilitation centers. And so you might find, if you're a Leo sun, moon, rising, that you're having to deal with these 12th house institutions where you go and take time away from the world. You might also find that this is a period where you might be thrown into solitude or seclusion for one reason or another, in ways that come about very unusually, in ways that come about that are very synchronistic, where it feels like you almost have to do this and you don't have a choice. And so you might be spending more time away from the world due to necessity, as opposed to, due to choice. That's not going to be the case for everyone, but for some people, that might be the case for the Leo risings with certain alignments in your chart. And then the Mercury stationing to go retrograde is happening in your sign. And so if you have your sun, moon, rising between, I'm going to give it a bigger word because it's a conjunction, but between, let's say, 0 to 8 degrees in the sign of Leo, you're going to be feeling this stationary position the most. And so this, again, makes this a more introspective week for Leos. It's not a week to put yourself out there, to jump in and do something new, to make crazy, hasty decisions. This is a week to take a step back, to reflect, to relax, to revitalize, and to reevaluate and reassess the situation at hand before moving forward. It's not necessarily a great time to jump in and just, go all out and do something new. This is a time for reflection, very much so for Leo and Leo rising. And, this could bring up old communications and relationships that need to be revisited, old things that you said personally that need to be revisited. This could cause you to have to change your self-image or reevaluate your self-image, or the way that you project your energy out in the world, or to reevaluate your thought processes or your relationship with your body. These are all things that could come up for you during this Mercury retrograde, and especially while it's stationing. All right. And for Virgo and for Virgo rising, this total solar eclipse in the sign of Cancer is happening in your 11th house of friendship. And so this could bring very fated karmic circumstances that come up around friends, social networks, maybe groups of people that you surround yourself with by choice. Maybe you're invited in a very synchronistic way into a new group or a new social club or a new social circle. Maybe this provides opportunity for you to form an organization of your own that's really in alignment with what you care about and what you want to nurture. This is also potentially positive new beginnings that could occur that affect your relationships in a very fated, very karmic way, but in a very positive way as well. So, and this is also a time where like fated new relationships could come in, like relationships with people and relationships one-on-one that are meant to play out in this lifetime, that you need to connect with these people, and you'll feel that sense of importance around the events that transpire and around the relationships that form throughout this time. And so for Virgo rising, this isn't as intense in like a challenging way. This is going to be a little bit easier and a little bit lighter. Mercury is stationing to go retrograde in your 12th house, which is a very introspective house. And, Mercury retrograde, or Mercury stationing retrograde in particular, is a very introspective influence. And so, yeah, you might be sort of pulled out into the world. You might be pulled out into relationships and focusing on your connections with people this week. But you also need to spend some time in reflection, because you're going to get a lot of information intuitively through visions, downloads, impressions, dreams in ways that are not very Virgoan. So pay attention to what comes up for you in terms of imagery. It's going to help you to reevaluate certain aspects of your life, and also reevaluate the way that you rest, the way that you find reprieve, relaxation. Reevaluate your relationship to your spirituality and your spiritual practices. These are all things that you can do very easily during this Mercury retrograde period. All right, and then for Libra and for Libra rising. So this Cancer total eclipse new moon is happening in your 10th house of career and public status. And so this is potentially going to bring some sort of new, powerful new beginning that can pull you into a completely new direction. It's like a reset when it comes to your career and your work life. This could bring fated new beginnings that completely change the way that you do your work. I know that the last time I had a total solar eclipse that happened in my 10th house, it happened on my midheaven. So if you have this on your midheaven, if your midheaven's at 10 degrees or 17 degrees, this is going to affect you most strongly. So if you can check that, go back. I have a video about how to find these different alignments so you can figure out what's going to impact you the most in these general forecasts. If you haven't already done so, and then you can figure out where your midheaven is. But regardless of where your midheaven is, this can still bring a powerful fated change and pull you in a new direction in your career. And the example I was about to give was, there was a total blood moon solar eclipse that happened in the sign of Leo in 2017. And literally just a couple weeks before that, I was asked to join Astrolada's team on her YouTube channel. And that's how I got into doing videos. I didn't want to do videos. I wasn't planning to really do videos, but I had this sense like I had to get ready to do videos. And then, I joined that big YouTube channel, and it stimulated this energy where I started doing videos. I realized I loved doing it, and then I created a channel of my own, and here I am. And that was a completely new direction for me. Not something I'm not like an actor or something like that, like a lot of YouTubers are, who feels comfortable doing this. I'm not like some sort of teacher who stands on stage and connects with all these people. So anyway, the point of my story is, this can take you in a direction that you wouldn't have expected. You might have a sense of the direction that you're moving into with your career, but you might not know how that's going to come about or where that's really going to take you, because it's going to take you in a new direction that you can't anticipate just yet. And this is another eclipse for Libras in particular, especially if you have your sun moon rising around 10 degrees. I would say anywhere from 0 to 15 degrees from 5 to 15 degrees, because this is a strong eclipse energy. If you have your sun moon rising in Libra from 5 to 15 degrees, especially your rising sign, this is one of those eclipses that can change your whole life. It's not just your career that's changing, it's your personality, your persona, the way that you present yourself out in the world. It has to do with your family, your home environment, and maybe making changes and restructuring your home, your property, your place of living, your relationship with your family in a way that allows for greater growth and career success out in the world. This is also going to change the dynamic of your relationships in very fated karmic ways, and maybe bring in new work-related contacts and relationships that you wouldn't have anticipated otherwise. And so paying attention to the themes that are coming up around all of those 4 areas I just mentioned can give you clues as to what is going to be unfolding over these next few months. And then the Mercury retrograde is happening in your 11th house of friendships. And so this could be a time where you have to reevaluate your friendships, or you might have more disputes or miscommunications or difficulties that come up for you involving networking or groups of people that you surround yourself with by choice, or organizations that you're a part of. This is a time for you to reflect on who you're surrounding yourself with. Are you surrounding yourself with the right people? Are they in alignment with your passions? Are these people being authentic? Are they generous? Are these connections, coming from the heart? Or are they coming from a need for status, or for, wanting something or wanting recognition from a group? Reevaluate your relationship with the group during this Mercury retrograde. I think it'll be very fruitful for you. All right, and then for Scorpio and for Scorpio rising. All right, so for Scorpio rising, this, move this here. So this new moon, total solar eclipse that's happening in the sign of Cancer is going to be in your 9th house, which is the house of higher education. It's the house of travel and long distance travel. It's the house of teaching and publishing and, all of these really wonderful 9th house things. It's the house of your beliefs, your overarching beliefs about God, the universe, the world around you that frame your reality. It's about your really innate belief systems and philosophies, your moral and ethical value systems. And this is really going to show you whether or not you're in alignment with that. This is a great energy for new beginnings involving education, whether it's you providing some sort of education as a teacher, publishing a book that delivers really profound and important information for people, whether this is you connecting with people through travel or at a distance, or whether this is you taking on a new educational pursuit that feels so right and feels so fated and feels so karmic. Like you just have to deal with that energy right now. You just have to jump in and take that course, or enroll for college or additional education, or connect with that teacher that you've been really, really wanting to connect with. And for those who have Scorpio rising, or your sun and moon within that little frame there, within 5 degrees of the eclipse, so anywhere from 15 to 5 degrees in the sign of Scorpio, this is going to be impacting you in a very positive way. This is really going to help you to show up in alignment with what you truly value and what you truly believe in. And that's something that's a big takeaway from this eclipse. Even if you have your Scorpio rising sign around 17 degrees, this is still going to be impacting you in a very similar way and very strongly, because that's where the nodes are right now. This can also have a positive effect in a more subtle way on your relationships, because it's trining your ascendant and sextiling your descendant. And so you can have very positive, very subtle, faded occurrences that come in with connections with people, especially one-on-one connections. So pay attention to who you're connecting with, pay attention to all of the themes we just talked about, and see what comes up for you, because this is going to be impacting Scorpio much more positively than a lot of the other signs. And then for Scorpio rising, the Mercury retrograde is going to be stationing in your 10th house of career. This is a really great time to reevaluate the details, your plans, your obligations in your career path, and reassess, reevaluate, and then have a better, more adaptive plan that's more in alignment with what you're passionate about moving forward. Are you just drudging by and just doing the same thing day in and day out? Is your heart connected to what you're putting out there? Is your heart connected to the way that you're engaging with your work or with the people in your workplace, especially your bosses? Thinking about these things is going to be a really good utilization of the energy of the Mercury retrograde. All right. And then for Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising, this new moon solar eclipse is happening in your 8th house, which is the house of a lot of things. It's the house of debt and other people's money. It's the house of joint finances through marriage. It's the house of taxes and inheritance and death and rebirth and intensity and power and control issues. And all of these themes are up for fated occurrences to happen around them over the next week, but especially over the next, really into the next few months. And so this could be a powerful reset that brings new beginnings when it comes to marriage partnership and joint finances through marriage partnership. Maybe your partner has this like big surge in income and it's a reset. Maybe you get an investor that invests in you or your business, and that changes things for you in a very dramatic, very powerful way. Maybe you have a reset when it comes to your debt, and something happens that's very fated and karmic that allows you to pay off your debt. Or on the opposite end, if you're being aspected a little bit more harshly with some of your other planets, it could be that the very opposite happens, and you have something that comes up that requires that you take out a loan, or that you deal with debt, or you deal with borrowing money from your family, or something along those lines, or you're dealing with death benefits, or you're dealing with inheritance. And so all of these themes could come up for you right now. There could be power and control issues that come up around finances. There could be power and control issues that come up in general that are brought up from this eclipse. But really, this is about you empowering yourself, especially when it comes to your resources, but in general, empowering yourself to embrace the things that you are afraid of and to work through those fears, to transform them into something new. The eighth house is a deep healing house. It heals you from the inside out because it heals you from that core issue, that core trauma, that core fear, that core emotional or psychological issue that's driving the other behavioral issues, the other psychological issues, the other physiological issues that are going on in your life. And so this is the time where you're going to have to embrace that energy of transformation, even if it feels scary or intense in the moment. And so this is, Sagittarius rising. It's a very strong energy for you guys. And the Mercury retrograde is happening in your ninth house, which is the house of your beliefs. It's the house of your beliefs about God, the universe, the world around you. It's how you act in integrity, and whether or not you're acting in integrity, that's really going to be a theme, especially if you have your Sagittarius rising sign between 2 and 6 degrees. You'll have Mercury stationing in trine with your rising sign. And so this is going to be all about looking at your relationship with God, your relationship with something higher than yourself, your relationship with your philosophies on life, and whether or not you're embodying that truly and fully. This could also bring a lot of hiccups and miscommunications involving higher education, involving travel plans, involving teachers or teaching, publishing, writing, all of these things. And so if you're involved in any of those activities, take a step back, give yourself 3 times longer to do anything, and you'll be just fine. All right, and then for Capricorn. So for Capricorn and Capricorn rising, this eclipse is happening in your 7th house, which is the house of relationships. And so this could bring very fated, karmic, crazy new beginnings that throw you in a whole new direction when it comes to your partnerships. This could bring a new fated partnership. This could bring a new development that's very synchronistic, very fated, very important, that pulls you in a whole new direction in an important partnership. That could be a partnership through marriage. That could be an important relationship that maybe turns into a marriage partnership with this influence. It could be a close personal relationship, like a friendship that this is played out through. It could be a business partnership or a contract that this is played out through. But this is a new beginning, a reset when it comes to important relationships in your life, where you're going to be pulled into a new path and things are going to change in those relationships pretty greatly, especially if you are a Capricorn rising around that 10th degree. So anywhere from 15 to 5 degrees in the sign of Capricorn. I went in reverse there. You're going to be feeling this the most, and also 17 degrees in the sign of Capricorn. All of you guys who fall under that range, you're going to be having the most fated, synchronistic, intense experiences around relationships this week versus other people who have Capricorn rising, sun, or moon energy. And then this Mercury retrograde is stationing in your 8th house. This is a good time to rethink joint finances in marriage partnership, in relationships. This is a really good time to reevaluate your situation with debt or with taxes or inheritance of some kind, or your death benefits, or the way that you are handling your situation after you pass on, right? So who's going to, get your resources? How are things going to be handled? That could be something that you might need to reevaluate and take a look at, preparing for death. That's a very 8th house thing. The other issues, though, that could come up, you could have power struggles in communication. You could have miscommunications involving debt. I know that last time I had Mercury retrograde in my 8th house, I got a lot of weird letters that I think were not, well, they weren't correct. A lot of weird, confusing emails and letters around debt that turned out to be scammy. So you have to pay attention to what's going on very closely with this Mercury retrograde. Any communication involving debt or insurance or investments, you're going to want to double and triple and quadruple check those types of things. This is a really great time to go inward and to reevaluate and to look at issues involving trauma and fear and anxiety that are maybe preventing you on an unconscious or subconscious level from taking action in the way that you normally would. So what fears are holding you back? What's controlling you within yourself? Taking a look at those themes can be very productive when it comes to using this Mercury retrograde energy. All right, and then Aquarius and Aquarius rising. So this eclipse is happening in your 6th house of work. So this is going to be a busy time. This could bring fated occurrences and karmic events involving your work. You might start a new job. You might take on a new project. You might have a very fated event that occurs involving your coworkers or your workplace. You could go to work one day and find that it's closed because there's like an electrical problem or something like that. You could have a reset when it comes to your day-to-day habits and routines for your work where you realize you need to do something in a completely different way, or you're being forced to do something in a completely different way. This could also bring up issues, new beginnings around your health and your nutrition and the way that you take care of your body. That could be part of this too. And the way that you show up in service of others could be up for change and evaluation. But generally, when you have an eclipse in your 6th house, it's going to be a lot of work. It's going to be an intense energy where you're going to be very, very busy, especially over this next week and these next couple of months. And changes will probably occur when it comes to your workplace and your relationship with your work environment. Mercury is stationing to go retrograde at 4 degrees in the sign of Leo in your 7th house of relationships. And so especially if you're an Aquarius rising near that 4th degree, so anywhere from 2 to 6 degrees, you're going to be feeling this Mercury station the most. And so this is going to bring up old issues around relationships. This is one of those Mercury retrogrades where old flames can come up and come into your mind, or reach out to you, text you, call you, send you a message, or they just pop up in your feed and you haven't thought about them in forever. This could also provide opportunity to revisit important conversations in current relationships, to renegotiate important contracts, and to reevaluate your relationships in general, and whether or not you're connected in a way that's very passionate, authentic, and heartfelt with the people you care about most. All right. And then for Pisces and for Pisces rising, this energy is happening in your 5th house, which is the house of love and passion and romance and hobbies and interests and the things that you love to do because you love to do them. And Pisces actually is getting a really nice energy with this eclipse, especially if you have your rising sign around that 10th degree or at that 17th degree. So anywhere from 5 to 15 degrees or at that 17th degree in the sign of Pisces, you're going to be feeling this in a very positive way. This is going to provide fated karmic new opportunities for romance, for passion, for play. You might find a new hobby or a new interest that you really want to embody that can really take you in a new direction in the way that you interact and interface and see the world. This could also impact your relationships in a fated way that's very romantic and passionate and fun and exciting for you. And so this can bring in that energy. This could bring fated circumstances around children, even something like an unexpected pregnancy potentially for some people. So if that's not something you're going for, maybe be careful. But it is something that happens sometimes with these alignments. It's not going to happen for everyone, don't worry. But this could bring fated new developments involving children, your own or other people's children, involving play, involving romance, involving fun, involving passion. And so this can really propel you into a new direction when it comes to connecting with your joy. And that can be a very powerful, very positive experience for a lot of Pisces people. Where things might be a little bit more difficult is that Mercury will start to retrograde in your 6th house, which is the house of health and work and daily routines. And so you might feel very busy and very overwhelmed with work-related projects and communications this week. And you might find that there could be mishaps involving work-related projects and communications this week, or health-related projects and communications this week. So, just take your time, slow down. And this is also you reevaluating your daily routines and the way that you take care of yourself. Are you really taking good care of your body? Are you paying attention to your nutrition? What does your workout habits look like? What do your daily habits look like? Are your daily routines supporting good health, or are they just sort of habitual and comfortable for you and not actually supporting you in health and healing? So those are things to look at too. And on the same token, looking at your daily work routines. Like, is this what you want to be doing every day? Is it connected with your passions? Are you excited about it? Is your relationship with your coworkers, is that going well? Is your workspace what you want it to be? Does it help you to feel inspired, or is it kind of like bland? Do you need to spruce it up? These are things that you can think about with this Mercury retrograde. All right, everyone. So that is my rundown for the eclipse in Cancer and the Mercury retrograde. It's a big week, so take it slow, take a breath. Don't, rush around all crazy. Take some time for yourself. Self-care is going to be very important during times when we have a lot of transition and a lot of intense energy. And yeah, so I hope that this week goes well for all of you, and I will see you guys next week with next week's forecast. All right, bye everyone. Thank you so much.